I'll go ahead and give you the thank you for recording. Thank you,
Awesome. I was
Marshall.
going to say, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jamie. You didn't have to send me an additional ping to say, hey, get on this whole thing, right? So I appreciate that. Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to Hire Heroes USA Growing Partners Success Meeting. Wendy, I hope you like the long title, but it's how we're doing it today. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and start right away with, what are we going to do today? So first, I want to give you a better idea, kind of concept of Hire Heroes USA. What we are, who we are, what we do on a daily basis, kind of the areas in terms of the model of our business, and then of course to go right into the partnering information, because that's why you're here in the first place. That's what matters, and that's what's most important to you, is these recruiting solutions, and then talk about possible next steps, right? How to partner. And then we'll open it up to some additional discussion pieces just to make sure that we can dial in a little deeper, perhaps, maybe industry specific, or maybe even your firm specifically to determine, hey, what could we do best in terms of a unique partnership? All right, so without further ado, Hire Heroes USA, I think it's important to start with our overall mission. Now, all of my teammates, as well as the individuals within our department, it's important to see that our mission is our target. Right? It's what we think of, it's how we act and operate on every call and within every meeting. So it's important that I review it here. So it's simple. It's to empower these group of individuals we're going to talk about, right? The service member, the veteran, and the military spouse to succeed in the civilian workspace. It's super simple, right? But it's important to look at that again because it's really what sets us up every single day. It's the reason that we do what we do, and of course how we focus. I think it's also important to review our core values, as that they may align very much with, well, one, the firms that are on this call now, and then of course very closely to that of our military defense, and of course throughout those branches of service. Our specific core values are integrity, passion, effectiveness, and collaboration. Now, we hold ourselves to the highest standards. We focus on making a true difference in the lives of our clients. And we'll talk about who those clients are here in a moment, because I think they're super important to you, the firm, the organization that hopes to make them your candidates for hire, right? We are data driven. We're obsessed with this sort of thing. And we are with proven results, of course, that we look at here. Now, we partner with mentors, with businesses, and of course, we also partner with these individuals to make some of the greatest impact across this space. We are a national not-for-profit, and we've got some, I think, some pretty cool pieces out there in terms of ways of success. We are the largest in our area, and for a lot of reasons. Now, we have received a 4-star Charity Navigator and the Platinum Seal of Transparency. Now, first off, the 4-star thing, everyone else has 5-star, I don't get it, but that's the maximum that they have, the 4 stars. So we've done this in a lot of ways, and it's by delivering fantastic results, I think, to these clients and these individuals that we're going to talk about quite a bit here in just a moment. And it's important to point out that we're funded by private donations and public grants. So this is it. Yeah, I've got to include this title here. But anyways, I'm Marshall McLeod, and I absolutely love working in this space of business development. I'm a complete nerd for this area, and I like everything that goes along with it. Specifically, what I do with Hire Heroes USA is I really to help cultivate these creative partnerships. I give guidance on positioning, and of course that's positioning in the way of our typical marketing sense of the word, but then of course how it's, I think, going to be very similar to your interests, which is in the way of hiring solutions. And then finally, we do a great deal of employer training through the development of those, through ways of curriculum, things like this, but we are very keen on that training as it's important, obviously, and we'll go into some of those other areas. Now, I'd like to talk about Hire Heroes' business model in kind of a way that I like to look at it into 2 arms, right? Our client-facing arm and then our firm-facing arm. Now, with any of my MBAs on the line, we'll probably look at this area as that we kind of operate as a distributor, right? Because we're kind of the connector in between. But I prefer that particular term, which is connector, given our product type. These are human beings, right? So, right. So with that, regarding our client-facing side, for many of the firms on the line now, we may not need to build some sort of elaborate business case. I may be talking to these decision makers that have already said, yeah, we know why we like this candidate base. We want to hire them for these particular reasons. But it's also important to look at these folks because, again, these are the clients that you hope to be potential candidates. And let's look at some of these things. For instance, the retention, major aspect here. These individuals, about half of our candidate base, are leaving the service very soon or have just recently left the service. Now, they're more likely to stay with your organization than those non-veterans. Now, and another area in way of promotions. Now, I look at this word because I think it's kind of an interesting one for veterans specifically, because they look at promotions as a particular thing, not so much to gain higher and prestige and things like this, or even more money perhaps, but they've went through their careers seeing promotions as an opportunity to accept additional responsibility, to lead more individuals, and to provide even more impact, which is why I think that the promotions piece, well, of course, they're more likely. They have been in a career that has been really very much dependent on, you must promote in order to do these things that you want to do. So that's why you're more likely to see that than their, of course, non-veteran counterparts. In the way of education, this is awesome. Among all of your defense areas, and this is, of course, across both developed nations and non-developed, and developing nations, I should say, we are the most educated force, right? And they're also more likely, as you see here, 160% more likely than non-veterans to have a graduate degree or higher. So, and the final piece, and I think this is key and very important, that's why we're on the call in the first place, is your ROI. Now, when we talk about military-friendly firms having a better return on, of course, whether it be the interaction with the individual employees, your workspace, or your productivity, you're more likely to see that, obviously, if it's not the window dressing version of military-friendly. We want to truly get after being inclusive of this amazing population. Now, more on the way of our client-facing side. Many of the folks know on this call that more than 200,000 professionals transition out of the military each and every single year. Now, we work with a percentage of those folks one-on-one, and we do things with some of the simple approach, right? With developing that first issue of communication, resume writing. Now, many folks on this call have seen a military-style resume, and I joke, I have one of the coolest ones I've seen is 32 pages. Yes, fantastic. It had lots of information in it, of course. Not all of the things that we could use necessarily. So they work one-on-one with an individual that we call a transition specialist, or I'll call TS from here on out. They work with that TS to develop that initial resume, so you can better read and understand this information, so they can truly, get after the impact they're going to be able to make at your firm and the impact they've already made within so many teams. We go further than that, though. We don't just stop with the resume. We go through career coaching. We introduce them to, we have well over 1,000 individuals across the globe that help us so much in the way of volunteering, providing mock interviews. Many firms come together and work with us to develop these, as many of these folks, although been in service for maybe 10, 15, 25 years, and have not had an interview, well, in the way that we think of, or we take it for granted in here in the private sector, of course. We also assist with that mentorship, connecting them with those individuals, job sourcing, and of course, just tons of career events. Now, some of them are actually getting back to in-person and physical space, but we've been really a leader in this area specific to the digital interface or the virtual career events that we do have. We're going to talk about more of those here in just a moment. But first, I want to go back to the other part. We talked about the client-facing side. Let's talk about that firm-facing side. How do we do that? How do myself, my teammates, how do we connect them to your firm? Because you're incredibly important. Without you, we don't have those hires. We can't tout these amazing things of helping over 100,000 individuals to do these things, to find success within this employment space. Some of the things are this, right? The job board, virtual career fairs, target email campaigns, spotlight webinars, employer training, again, huge key point here, and then sourcing. Now in this, I'm going to actually dive in a little deeper throughout these as kind of a holistic approach as to how we make this connection possible. But if you look at the job board, obviously, this is going to be on the spectrum of, it's going to be what we say in the industry, right? A kind of a post and pray. We do absolutely have a job board, and it's a fantastic resource. You're able to connect with a little over, I think this morning it was a little over 19,000 individuals on the job board. And then within that, you're able to post something. Of course, we have these amazing different key pieces that allow you to put your jobs at a certain position or highlight them as a remote only or hiring now, things like this, pretty typical. Now, I'll actually compare it. I'll take it a step further and compare it to, well, those names that we know out there, and I'll go ahead and use them. Indeed, Monster.com, things like this. What I can't promise you though, is that we're going to have 60 to 100,000 warm bodies on the other end, right? But what I can tell you is the individuals, the candidate base that we do have to offer are these individuals that are, well, of the military kind of persuasion here, these military spouses and military professionals, as it's kind of a cost of cost of working with us is that they do have and provide a proof of service. Now, the other big difference between our job board and many of the other ones that you may have seen is that we have this kind of a backdoor access piece to it in the way of a recruiter's package. So you're able to go on, and your team members are able to go on through the back door, so to speak, of the job board and look through your particular criteria, whether it's specificity of the geographical location, level of education, something like this. You're able to go through and search those things and develop your own lists there as a recruiting package. Now, virtual career fairs. I absolutely love this area, and many of my team members absolutely hate hearing me say it, but we've been doing this for a long time. And initially, we weren't that great at it, right? So there we were, 2015, 2016, starting out with these virtual space career fairs. Now, I am kind of an individual that's more of the loafers on pavement, knocking on physical doors in this real world, touching palms, shaking hands type person. So maybe I'm biased, but at the end of the day, there was some struggle, but we did a lot of them, and we did them sometimes multiple times per month. But we worked with some amazing partners to, one, help us to collect this data, run case studies with our partners to determine what best practices are. And we worked, of course, directly with the client, because remember, we work one-on-one with these human beings to figure out what best works for them and what best worked for them in the past. What we found is that we run these quarterly. We have the greatest number, now fast forward to the future. By the way, we got good before we had to, hashtag 2020 happened, and we got a lot better. And what we were able to find is that by running them again quarterly, that we have the best responses in the industry. And that is meaning the highest number of attendees, right? That means that folks register for this particular event and they show up. Now, it may be just because we have an amazing candidate base. We do work with them one-on-one. We also teach and train them how to work the virtual career fair, but we also help the firm. We teach you how to organize this, best approaches within the VCF or virtual career fair. Now, we help you to triage those longer lines, how to work a kind of front of house, back of house communication between the two, several recruiters that are there within your booth, how to best set it up, how to, again, without window dressing, set up an actual military friendly looking environment and be truly inclusive to those individuals and productive within that space as well. So we also have some of the top numbers in the way of same day offers within that as well. Now, moving on to target email campaigns, I can't say enough about this space either. It's fantastic. We are truly responsible as we target individuals within this. Again, we have a one-on-one relationship with this candidate base. As we reach out to them, we have an understanding of where they want to go, what they would like to do, and more importantly, or probably most importantly, what they don't want to do and where they do not want to go. So we don't just blindly blast some information, which is probably why we have the highest open rates, the highest click-through to apply rates within the industry. Now, moving on to some of those other areas, we talked about that spectrum, right? So the kind of low touch area job board where it's a post and a lot of work on your end, the recruiter's end, all the way over to the other end of the spectrum. Our talent sourcing team is truly incredible. These individuals have an understanding. One, they speak military for the most part as well. And they're able to look at their individuals' past experiences. That's the candidate, that is. And then kind of look over more toward what the firm is looking for, you, the partner, and determine, okay, this is the type of position we're wanting to fill. This is where we need it. And these are the things that we're looking for in terms of skill set, background, education, et cetera. They make this match. So it's almost a hands-off approach, but highly successful, obviously, with this team, allowing them to do some of these sourcing pieces with you. Now, moving on to the webinar events and the career networking events. This is a really great opportunity. So for instance, I understand that anyone that's really involved with this has an interest in this mission. Now, obviously, you want to find amazing employees. You want to position yourself, your brand, as this particular thing, which you probably, it would be an easy thing to do with this information. But this takes it a step further. For instance, in these webinar events and these career networking events, it gives that opportunity for you and your employees and your teammates to truly embrace your philanthropic side. to get involved, to teach a lot of these individuals. And of course, we have up to 500 folks show up, which is a heck of an event to work digitally, especially within the chat rooms and everything else. But you're able to work with a large number of folks, teaching them a lot more about you, right? That's positioning right there. And then of course, we have these smaller breakout style events that are going to have that more intimate touch, that a lot of opportunity for you to engage these individuals and possibly find your next star player for your team at these things. And then on to employer training. These individuals that you're bringing on board, they have come from an environment of nonstop training. They've coming from an environment which is arguably the most diverse organization on the planet, but they kind of are monoculture too. They're military, regardless of their background. They all share that. We can teach you in a lot of ways, not only that, what I think, and maybe people may argue with me, that easier part of attraction. Now it's the next step. I've onboarded the employee. What about that other key piece, which is how do I keep them? That retention that's so critical. Those are many things we go over within those training pieces too. Now let's get after kind of the solutions focused approach as we're moving, of course, across this space as connectors with our client facing side with you, the firm. Now, looking at hiring processes, first, we've got to go work on that educate piece, right? Training yourself. And I'm talking from C-suite down to, of course, the broom closet, and all the individuals and players in between have to understand this military culture. It's incredibly important, how to best use them. Moving down to find the voice. This is an amazing part here, just as we find ourselves oftentimes within our continuing education, things we do with SHRM and other larger organizations. We find ourselves talking about if you just have one veteran that's working in your workspace, you're likely to already have an employee support group in the way of a veteran support group. Now, identify that individual, leverage that as a resource to establish that ERG if you don't already have one, and that is an employee resource group, that is the ERG. And then, of course, competitive roles. Don't just select them for something where it's going to be a mundane, everyday kind of exercises. Have them involved with something that is again one of those competitive roles. They're going to attract other individuals like themselves, and use them. Leverage again that resource that you have. The scale the hiring program, that process is, I think, key, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to look at the veteran in terms of their skill set and say, well, they did this X number of things in service. Well, we should hire them for these particular roles. Think of them more of a, kind of a whole assortment of skill sets. We know when we hire individuals that we have a whole host of soft skills. Many of these we can't train between the hours of 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. Consider those soft skills as that major hiring component in assessing these candidates. Use that in that, of course, area within that program that you're having and developing. And then finally, analyze the talent funnel and retention. This is key. As you continue to add these variables, add these inputs and these solutions that we provide and offer, really test this. Be highly critical of your process, looking through these things, and make sure that we do test it. Because again, without determining our overall retention strategy, we can just keep working on that front end, right? And without getting that retention piece and that building that team and advancement of those team members throughout my organization, I'm going to lose on both ends. So again, really just analyze the information, determine what best practices are, and continuously be critical of your system. Now we move over to my next space that I'm super excited about, which is brand. It's positioning. There's two key areas here, right? The first one, and we'll just start with that. It's just going to be putting yourself in front of this $1.4 trillion annual spending power, right? Let's call it what it is. It's over nearly 50 million individuals that are much more likely to work with an organization, buy from an organization, or even associate with an organization that has some sort of recognition. Maybe it's a discount, right? But I wouldn't call it openly as a recognition program for veterans. On the other avenue, though, of course, is positioning yourself as a military-friendly environment. It's not just the window dressing piece. It's truly embracing this culture that is incredibly impactful, that has an amazing ROI. We know that through the data. It tells us this. But really embracing this culture and building an organization that's supportive of it and understands it through the way of education and, again, those recognition pieces. Now, that's where we come in, once again, not only through the training piece, but our overall presence. within this community, and if you have individuals working for you or know someone, maybe yourself included, that has that veteran background or is a military professional currently serving in one of the other components of the National Guard Reserve component, something like this, has an understanding that there's a connection. You never really leave or lose this particular culture, right? It stays with you. And as a result, you stay within the community. Individuals exiting the service are a great target priority in a lot of cases because they know other individuals that are leaving very soon, within 1 year. The other key piece is that individuals like ourselves that have this amazing relationship, we have the followers, we have the followership rather, in the way of our social media. And then finally, we have a one-on-one relationship with these individuals. Use us as it makes sense with our mission, which is to connect you, to empower these individuals in this amazing workspace. I mean, this is really changing individuals' lives. What I want to do is kind of give you an opportunity to learn a little bit more. And Jamie, I know you're going to blast out a ton of resources here too in the chat box, if we're not already hammering out questions too. But we've got a lot of different areas to make connections with this amazing community. And we want to do it. We have a true interest in that because as we started this call, our mission is to empower this group of individuals to find successful work, or excuse me, to find success in the civilian workspace. I think that we can make that impact together. We've been doing this longer than anyone else, and we're absolutely the largest in the space. We can do it pretty well. So without more, I'd like to give you an opportunity to look into that additional information. I would like to continue our conversations in terms of next steps within the partnership. But for now, let's go ahead and open it up. What questions do we have, Jamie? Have we gotten through, or have we covered everything? And that's fine too. But what specific questions do we have that we might be able to answer here and now?
You didn't have any questions come through, so I think you did a really great job. But since we have Crystal on the line, I wanted to see if you had any questions. That like you basically got a great opportunity to have an intimate setting, and we want to give you the floor if there are some questions that you have personally about what you're doing at your company.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'll keep thinking.
Okay,
Yeah,
and what we'll do
sorry.
next? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jamie. I think you were probably going to say what I was going to say.
Oh no,
We'll
I was trying to inquire a bit about Crystal and where she comes from, so I thought I could just start there, and then we could think of other information that she might benefit from.
Okay, yeah, so I work in the ABA field, so we do in-home therapy to children on the autism spectrum. It's very time-based, so we have clients who are available at a certain time, and we have people who are available at other times, and we just pair them up to have therapy with them. And all you need is it's a pretty entry-level position. You just need a high school diploma and a clean background check, and probably transportation.
Okay. Well, I'm not terrified of that at all, given, obviously our clientele is going to be folks with even pretty high security clearances that have, weird things like their retinal scans on file places. So they have a great deal of background, but the positive kind. So I don't think that'll be an issue. In terms of transportation, that's rarely an issue in a lot of cases with our clients as well. And then the final thing I would say is that I would assume it's to a specific geographical location.
Yes, it is.
You're not going to have remote work.
No, there's no remote work.
Yeah, and one of the most powerful things, Crystal, that I think that you have that many firms do not, just not as powerful of a situation that you have, fortunately, which is you have a true mission, right? That's pretty important, pretty valuable. Imagine being in an organization where you don't matter as much as the mission, that the individual, to your left and right are more valuable, and the completion of this mission is more valuable than you in some cases. And I think that you get to tap into that. We don't get to do that at every single firm. We don't have every single partner that has that sort of ability. And I think you truly do. So that's very good thing that you have going for you. Now, in terms of a solution, I would want to, because of the nature of the work, and it is we're talking about specificity to location, I would want to start with a target email campaign. Because again, what we would be able to do is to determine what impact we might be able to have by area. We can even give you a heat map back to tell you how many folks in the area that are either interested in moving to that place or are there now that have an interest in that particular area. And then we can go ahead and target those folks, right? I think that'd probably be a good first step, but I would want it in concert with other things too. Just like any typical marketing mix, you know, I'm not saying to add in the entire kitchen sink, although as a data person, I kind of like that. I like all variables involved, but in this case, I would probably line that up also with a posting on our job board. So those two things, which we can send you some more information if you have not already received that from getting the invite to this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah, there's no other questions, Marshall.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I, again, look forward to the impact we're able to make together. And then, of course, we'll send out an email regarding this information, kind of next steps, what's going to be best, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank
Cool.
you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So now that I've got just the team, guess what? I was not doing the entire time.
What?
Recording.
Letting people in.
Oh,
Oh,
So I'm going to press stop on the record. Oh my gosh, I should not manage that. So right away approve. Oh man, I was wondering what that was over there.
I was wondering why
and
no
it was
one
like
was there.
people.
I was like, but
I saw
was
that
thinking
first one.
maybe.
I saw that first
Yeah.
one because it was over here on my, it's out of my peripheral.
How
And
many people did you see who joined?
no, they couldn't
We probably
because
need
I
some
didn't
of us.
accept
One
them,
of us.
man.
Mhm.
What's
One
that?
of us needs to
Can
be
you
the
tell
tech
how many
person.
people
I-
were trying to get in?
I don't know because I just saw like this list of like things admit and it was like it disappeared when I hit the, I don't know if I
Oh,
hit something. or
that's okay. We
pause.
recorded it.
Oh,
We need to stop recording. Did
I
you
need to
stop
stop before I
recording?
start saying too much profanity.